Greetings everyone, I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion. As you can tell from the title up there, I'm continuing my trek through the episodes of Batman the Animated Series, a classic show that I watched when I was growing up in the early 90s. And as of course, we are on episode 18. This is Beware the Grey Ghost. And in this episode, we technically get two Batmen for the price of one, because not only do we got the legendary Kevin Conroy voicing our animated Dark Knight, we also get a guest appearance from the 60s Batman himself, Adam West, playing a character named Simon Trent, which there's a little bit of some biographical material in this character. Now, the teleplay for this episode is by Garen Wolfe and Tom Rugger. And the fun thing is that if Adam West had turned down the guest starring role in this episode would have been scrapped. And I can see why, because without him voicing the character of Simon Trent, the whole premise of this episode will fall apart. Not to say you couldn't do it with another actor, but it just wouldn't work as well. I mean, I've only seen a little bit of it, but it's kind of like with how they try to do the Flashpoint story, is that you could have done it by adapting it wholesale, but you lose a little bit of that nostalgia pool if you don't have a past Batman in there. But here I think this is done a little bit better. Now, the episode starts with a little flashback to Batman's childhood, where he's watching a show called The Grey Ghost, which, looking at it, you can see it is a show that is a derivative of The Shadow, which makes sense because The Shadow is one of Batman's influences along with Zorro. And more like the crime-fighting aspect of it. And of course, it even got music that I'm like, yeah, this kind of sounds like music that would be in a serial or a film of The Shadow. It's got that old-timey serial feel, and the way that they really set up everything definitely feels like it. And even the voice, I can imagine the voice actor they get to give that old-timey serial feel. I can imagine him going, "What evil lurks in the hearts of men? The Shadow knows." That type of vibe with it. You see Batman's watching it. He's even got a little makeshift Grey Ghost outfit on while he's watching it. His dad's on the couch in the background reading the paper. Is like, "Bedtime after Grey Ghost, son." And the thing I like about it is that for this flashback, Thomas Wayne is voiced by Kevin Conroy. That was a nice little touch there. As we see, because they show these flashbacks a couple times, Bruce fell asleep in this episode. And this episode is the one that ties into the theme of to the main villain of this episode, and that is the Mad Bomber. Like in the episode, he is holding the city for ransom, like, give me $1 million or then such and such is going to get blown up. Well, no one really connects the dots. Bruce eventually does, because it's a eureka moment. So he and Alfred go down to a video store to try to find the Grey Ghost, and it turns out the Grey Ghost is one show that nobody has, so it's considered lost media within the world of the show. And that is because 20 years prior, the company that made the show burnt down, and it looks like all of the shows that they made were destroyed with it, which includes the Grey Ghost. Which is a nice little thing to throw in there, but of course for cinephiles and TV aficionados like me, you know that that's a sad fact that happens every now and then. Like films, especially from the golden age of the early talkies and silent era, because of the nitrate film stock and all the fires that happen in the vaults. There's a lot of stuff there that is lost media. Some of it probably we'd look at and go, other than the historical value, like, yeah, good riddance. But it's stuff like London After Midnight that we're like, oh no! So throwing that in there is a little nice. Batman is looking at this is like, there's really only one other way to figure it out. Gotta see if any people who made the episodes are still around. And they find out that the man who played the Grey Ghost himself, Simon Trent, not only is he still alive, but he happens to live in Gotham City. As a certain abridged series narrator would say, how very convenient. And Simon Trent, he lives in Gotham, but his career has not gone well since the end of the Grey Ghost. And that's because it typecast him, which this is something that a lot of actors throughout their careers have found. Now, sometimes they have embraced it in certain parts of their career, but other times it's come back to hurt them. Like, for example, Bela Lugosi, at one point in his career, before Ed Wood found him. That whole thing, he was able to get some appearances, but then other films and all that, he wasn't able to do because people just saw him as Dracula. And of course, Adam West himself was typecast a little bit with this. Not to say he didn't get work, but it wasn't as prolific. I think probably after his appearance here in his later years, he started to get more work because people had a little bit more respect for him, and he'd get appearances just from the fact he's Adam West. Like, a little side thing, one of my favorite cameo appearances of him is when he played a lawyer on an episode of the George Lopez show where he played Benny's lawyer. That was interesting. Great public defender, Batman. But anyway, getting back on topic. The biographical nature of it is that, like a lot of other people within Hollywood and a little bit West himself, Trent is dealing with the typecasting thing, but it's really bad with him. Nobody wants to hire him because they just see him as the Great Ghost, which I kind of get, but at the same time, you'd think that there'd be at least something that would want to get him, and like, yeah, we can get an older actor in there, like even some background work, but nobody. And because of that, Trent is behind on his rent repeatedly, and he has to sell Great Ghost merchandise. And as we see in the episode, one thing he eventually parts with is the Great Ghost outfit that he held on to. Now, Batman tracks him down, and he buys this stuff back, and he sells it to... He gives it back. He gives it back to Trent and tells him, "Meet me at such and such." It leads to a nice little scene between them. But, of course, the whole thing is with Trent going, "I'm not the Great Ghost." Which, tying into the whole thing about him being typecast, this kind of goes with the whole thing of, "I am not that person, stop doing it." And then, of course, when he does eventually throw the outfit on to help Batman later on, it's like him embracing the typecast. To go with typecasting, it's like Leonard Nimoy. Like, one of his books is "I'm Not Spock," and his other one is "I Am Spock." Eventually, you got to embrace the typecasting a little bit, or at least if it's because of one character you played, and that's in that regard, that's that. Now, this is after Trent has helped Batman in one way, because apparently he had a copy of every episode, and he gives Batman the Mad Bomber one, and Batman finds out that the Mad Bomber in the episode did the bombings with toy cars. And I just love Batman's reaction to this. He's looking at it, he's like, "You gotta be kidding me." It's like, that's the TV version of that scene in The Thing where he's like, "You gotta be fucking kidding." Batman's like, "Really? It was that simple?" I think part of the reason he's reacting that way is because we hear that little whirring sound, and he's like, "Oh no, you gotta be kidding." Well, Batman and the Grey Ghost, they do have a little chase thing involving these cars. And there is a touching moment afterwards where they get the one that they managed to capture. They go back to the Bat Lair, and Batman shows Trent his little mural to the Grey Ghost and tells him, like, "Yeah, it was one of my favorite shows as a kid." And the way they figure out who is doing the bombing, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's one of those ones I called the plot twist a mile away once it was revealed what caused the explosions. But for a kid show and all that, it is a nice little one. And it makes sense within the context of the episode, and also gives Trent a nice little moment to shine doing a kick. The ending of the episode is Trent deciding to put all of the episodes on home video and and there's a lot of little sellouts with it, and of course when he's doing signatures on them, he's in the Grey Ghost outfit. That, of course, ties in with the whole thing of the actor embracing the character and the public embracing him because he's embracing the character. And it wouldn't surprise me if in the world of the show that after this Trent did get a few, acting roles going off of this thing. And it's when you look at this part of the episode, you really see that without Adam West voicing Simon Trent, this episode would not have worked as well. So having him do it, I gotta applaud Mr. West for agreeing to do this. And of course, like I said, we get 2 Batman for the price of 1. And what makes, there's another nice little moment here in that, without saying a lot, Bruce kind of hints to Trent that he's Batman. And considering that Trent never outs him, if he catches on, kind of shows that he's keeping that secret pretty well, because he probably sees it like, hey, I had a good impact on people, even if it's this guy. And even if he probably knows what happened with Wayne's past, he probably's like, okay, shows that I did have impact on the right people. Now, an interesting little thing about Adam West when he was doing this is that, according to IMDb, that after he finished his recording, Paul Dini and Bruce Timm handed Adam West a $25,000 check and the original Batman costume, which apparently Dini bought at an auction for an undisclosed sum. So a little bit of life imitating art there. I can only imagine the type of emotions that West was going through when that happened. The gesture of that. I wonder if he sold that costume, because I've heard stories about in the 80s him showing up with the 60s costume at conventions, so maybe he had to sell it for rent at one point, or maybe that was a recreation and this was the original one. It's one of those things that, like, gets me wondering. Now, from how I've been gushing about this episode, you can tell that this is one that definitely comes with my recommendation. The animation on the episode is excellent. The score for the episode, I think I've kind of gushed a little bit about the opening score, because that's the main part that I love, and I love that they bring it up every now and then, because it's kind of like the Grey Ghost motif. And the voice acting on top of it, especially the back and forth between the two different versions of Batman we have here, both the current one and then the one from the past in the form of Simon Trent. That back and forth works well, and then the writing on top of it. If any of those elements in those scenes fell flat, it would have hurt the episode, but they all move forward excellently. And this is definitely one that's not on the skip list, so definitely gonna, if I do a top 10, definitely easily gonna fall in there. And that's really all there is to say about this episode now. Looking at the next one, I have no idea what this next episode is about other than what the title is, but we'll get to it next time. It's going to be Prophecy of Doom, and that will be next week, everybody. Till then.